Hey guys, it's Ray from PS Nation, and I'm going to be reviewing Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning never received the love it deserved. Despite generating some high scores from reviewers back in 2012 when it was released, the game was plagued by legal issues that one can easily research. Alas, what was a very good game vanished into obscurity. Recently, as in only a few months ago, I repurchased a physical copy of the original game for my PlayStation 3. A few days later, THQ Nordic announced it was releasing the game on current-gen consoles and PC, with the hilariously named Re-Reckoning. Regardless of the announcement, I still dug into my old save and remembered how much fun I had with this game. But the Re-Reckoning news was cause for celebration because I never thought I'd see this game in the light again. And it deserved, and now once again deserves, the limelight. Combining the exploration elements of a game like Skyrim with the combat of something more akin to God of War, and written by renowned fantasy author R.A. Salvatore, Kingdoms of Amalur aimed high to take some of your attention away from the understandably big fantasy titles of the time, and its execution was mostly solid. You start Amalur after falling in a great battle and finding yourself reawakened next to a pile of corpses. It's not that you survived the battle, rather you were revived for some reason and are immediately thrust into a story of fate, destiny, and the ability to wield them like weapons. In fact, destiny is Amalur's way of introducing the class system. You don't really pick a ranger, a thief, a warrior, or a mage. You create your own destiny through the choices and skills as you level. And even after you decide on a direction for your character, you can change your mind and go a different direction completely. Since this game is absolutely huge, this organic method of character growth is a very welcome feature because you're gonna be spending a lot of time with your character, and having second thoughts will kinda suck 80 hours into the adventure. This openness to the class system also allows you to experiment with various weapon types. I personally love the daggers and bow combination, but at any point I could switch to the Fey Blades and Chakrams, the latter allowing for combat similar to Kratos in God of War. Sorcery Destinies also add spells to your arsenal, and they can be used in conjunction with melee attacks. In fact, combinations are integral to combat. As you level your abilities with a specific weapon and type, you'll also learn various combo attacks. These assaults will reward you with higher damage upon your enemies and some spectacular visual animations. Beyond the Destiny system, Amalur is about exploration. The world is vast and beckons exploration, with an extraordinary amount of side quests that reveal narratives about the politics in the world and dive deep into the lives of Amalur's inhabitants and races. They also reward you with money and loot. Loot in Amalur is divided into familiar categories, particularly for fans of games like Diablo. Rare items will include perks and augments to your character that makes hunting for them worth the effort. Additionally, you can find components to forge your own weapons and items and combine your swords and armors with gems that you can loot or create. Regardless of what you choose to do with your time, Amalur offers plenty of options to fight, explore, or just create. But don't let yourself get too sidetracked because this adventure is supported by a great story. Discovering that you can alter the destiny of creatures and folks around you might sound trivial, but as one of your companions says early on in the game, you now have changed who that creature was going to be, who his children were going to be, and who knows what else.
He was supposed to... Do you have any idea what you've done? What sort of power you're playing with?
I paraphrased that, of course, but the impact of that statement was strong enough that it kept me paying attention to this narrative about destiny and what it means to be someone that can alter it, not just for me, but for those around me. The original Kingdoms of Amalur is almost 10 years old, so there are some dated mechanics that, while not detrimental to the experience, are definitely noticeable. One that stood out to me the most was the camera system. Since Amalur has a heavy focus on combat, the game doesn't really have a lock-on system. This actually works in its favor, but often I'd have to adjust my own camera or press one of the joystick buttons to reset it in order to center on my character. This only became an issue when I was surrounded by a horde of enemies, and that hesitation did cause me to take some damage. Fortunately, the camera is somewhat intelligent enough to know to zoom out during combat and allows you a wider view of the combat arena. Another minor issue I noticed during some of my combo executions is that I perform a combination that would land the first hit, the second hit, and then miss the third hit, even though I could clearly see evidence showing that my blade did indeed make contact with the enemy. This was not a common occurrence, but during a furious battle, every hit counts, and it was a bit frustrating to see that my efforts weren't always resulting in damage to the enemy. While games like The Witcher and Skyrim opt with a semi-realistic approach to their visuals, Amalur's approach is more of a fantastical design. It actually shares a lot more in common with World of Warcraft. Vast and colorful vistas are adorned with vibrant and glowing textures, whereas the night cycle in the game assaults your senses with bioluminescent plant life. The day side looks like the cover of a high fantasy graphic novel. This highly stylized approach factors into the geographical constructions as well. Cottages dot the small communities with exaggerated and skewed window panes, and the interiors match the warmth with inviting atmosphere that include well-lit hearths and humble furnishings. But Amalur is made up of various races and cultures, so visiting the land of Fae will completely flip the architecture and design, making the adventure of visiting new locations one that rewards you with fresh vistas.
And here you are yet again. I must say your hunger is great, unlike the Fae I slaughtered at Castle Yulvin.
Life is given to Kingdoms of Amalur via some talented voice work, in addition to some lively and atmospheric music. I did feel that some of the world music grew repetitive, especially when it would reset every time I'd exit a building, and your character doesn't say much. In fact, he or she has the Link syndrome of no audible speech. But all of the other characters that populate the world are voiced. This includes ambient characterization, voices that you hear in the environment. This effect gives life to the environment, like taverns and inns that populate the world. I returned to the Kingdoms immediately after revisiting the Kingdoms on the PlayStation 3. The added resolution and frame rate made what was already a great game even better. I put so many hours into the PS3 version, and yet I still found some fresh things in this Re-Reckoning. I tried to take my character's destiny in a different direction, and I tried some side quests that I hadn't before. Combat still felt tight, although some minor camera issues caused me to take damage that I didn't feel I truly deserved. In the end, this will either be your first time visiting Amalur, or you're simply curious about returning to this realm. For the newcomers, I highly recommend exploring this world. It's filled with lore, created from the ground up for this game, although you swear this comes from a multi-novel series. For those of you curious about returning, this is a remaster, not a remake, but the polish this game has received make it worthy of a revisit, especially if you were a fan of the original. While it may not hold up against modern action RPGs, it has aged fairly well. This game deserves a sequel and an expansion to its vibrant universe. Hopefully it gets the love it warrants this time around.